Welcome. My name is Clara, and I wanted to share a little bit about the importance of holding space for and acknowledging grief and loss when it comes to our pets, and how profound and sometimes painful that experience can be, and how there has been a growing trend in support groups for those in bereavement after losing a beloved family member. So, I wanted to share a little bit about pet loss and then what Companion Animal Collective can offer, as well as ways to seek healing if you are experiencing pet loss. First of all, pet loss is a profound experience. Research has shown that people grieve their pets in ways that are nearly identical to how we grieve the loss of another human being. Some people have anecdotally said that losing a pet is harder than losing a human in some ways. Pets are really, truly members of our family in this modern world. Unfortunately, despite so many of us going through this, society has been slow to realize just how impactful a loss of a pet can be to our psyche. This can make our grief even more complex because we're dealing with layers of confusion on how to categorize this grief, these deep feelings of sadness and bereavement. And we may even face internalized beliefs that it shouldn't feel this bad, or they were just a dog or just a cat. The first thing I want you to do if you're feeling this way is to gently challenge those thoughts and check in with yourself, check in with your body. Is it really too much to be feeling this way? When you think about the time you've had with your pet, is it so wild to think that we may grieve them, especially with the research out there, that we may be grieving them as much as we would grieve a human or even more? The thing about grief is that it often triggers shame and feelings of guilt. Usually we go through the stages of grief. They're not linear, but some of those stages include guilt and bargaining, trying to get our loved one back, saying, if only I had done this, or if only I had noticed they were sick sooner. So if you are in this place right now, I just want you to take a moment to care for yourself and realize that you are not alone, that you did everything you could to make your pet happy, and that your love and sadness right now and grief only shows the depth of how much you loved them and still love them. Okay, just wanted to give you that moment. We can absolutely feel alone in this, regardless of how long ago it happened. I lost a beloved dog. He was my ride or die in so many ways. In my early 20s, his name was Gaius. I made a memorial post for him on Instagram just a few weeks ago. My body remembered the loss before I knew what was happening, but I remembered we lost him sometime around March, and I could just feel that grief coming up again. And even though it had been 2 years now, it felt like it was yesterday again. It can be cyclical. So it could have happened 2 years ago. It could have happened 2 weeks ago. We grieve in many forms, and it's not always a straight line. In fact, it almost never is a straight line when it comes to healing. This can cause feelings or symptoms of depression, anxiety, and other negative effects to our mental health and well-being. And while we may feel that we are alone, in reality, we really are never alone. More and more places these days, especially in the veterinary world, and in the mental health field are recognizing the impact of pet loss and how serious that is and how much of a need there is for community support around that. So vet clinics and mental health providers are teaming up more to provide the much needed support to those who have lost pets. We know that community helps with grief. When it comes to any sort of tragedy or loss or death, whether it's not a tragic death, it's just a death we knew that was coming, we come together and memorialize. And that is a normal and natural thing that helps us process the loss. So research on grief and loss identifies two major factors that help us move through the grief process. Those are community and rituals. So community would be finding like-minded people, oftentimes people who are also experiencing grief and loss themselves. And rituals involve the memorialization or memorializing your pet and moving closer to closure. That doesn't mean you forget about them. It just means that you're moving through the feelings with community. There are more spaces out there now for support. So we are not so alone in our grief. And it's not silly to feel those deep feelings of sadness, especially when it comes to the loss of a pet. And finding joy, celebration, and creating rituals in a space that is designed to support your bereavement is a wonderful step towards getting help and making sense of your loss. Sometimes laughter feels perfectly right when it comes to death, and it's a strange feeling, but we know it when we experience it, especially together. Remember that we are all connected, and whether your ritual practices are religious, spiritual, secular, or really none of the above, finding some form of ritualistic practice can help you make sense of your loss and categorize it in your mind so you can find more closure. And recognizing the interconnectedness of all of us is a wonderful way to tap back into the source of wellness, which I have long believed is connection. I mean, the reason we had a pet that we loved so much in the first place is because we felt so connected to them. And when we realize that connection is the source of healing, we can come back to connection and heal more. On top of that, nature is healing. There's a lot of research now that shows how critical nature can be in the natural environment itself in our healing processes. There's so many therapies these days where people go out into nature or adventure therapy. Some people just like to go for walks with their therapist in nature just to get that fresh air and sunlight. It feels good to us. So regardless of how you want to memorialize your family member that you've lost, being in nature can help you remember that interconnectedness. When you feel the wind blow on your face or when you feel the sunshine, maybe it reminds you of walks you've taken with your pet, and it can give you good memories of the time you've had together. So the bottom line here is reach out. You deserve it. We all deserve compassion, especially in times of grief. And if we were watching our friend go through a grieving process, we would tell them the same thing, right? That you deserve compassion. The reverse golden rule is treat yourself like you would treat your friend. Oftentimes we are our hardest critics. So if someone in your life is telling you, hey, why don't you look for a support group? Or, hey, I really care about you. I'm so sorry for your loss. Is there anything I can do? This is permission to reach out and get support. You can try to find a group by reaching out to veterinary clinics in your area or mental health offices to see if they may have pet loss related groups. And Companion Animal Collective is very much about honoring the grief process and would love to partner with any spaces, whether those are in community spaces, in veterinary clinics, out in nature somewhere. I'm in the Chicagoland area. If anyone would ever like to work together to create a bereavement group for pet loss, this is one of the services that I would love to provide. Again, I have a mental health background. I would be operating in a coaching role and in a support role. So we would use rituals and community and nature to find some closure. So if you can't find anything, reach out to me and let's see what we can do. All right. I hope you're taking good care of yourself. Remember the reverse golden rule, and every day it's just one step at a time.